Then start up.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, students, and you're welcome. This course is BCH221, though you may see it as BMB 221. This is specially for biochemistry and SLT option students. Before I begin, I want to give us the course title. The course title is known as Functional Biochemistry, and it's a 3-unit course. It's good for you to know that the course is wide, so we have 4 lecturers taking this aspect of the course with respect to the BCH and SLT biochemistry option. Now, like I said, the course is split into 4 lecturers taking it. So I'm starting. My name is Dr. M.A. Daiku. So I'm taking the first part, and I'll give you a breakdown of the course content of the first part. So the course content is this. So we'll be treating the introduction to enzymes. So we'll look at holoenzymes. We'll also look at apoenzymes. We'll look at prosthetic groups. Then we'll also talk about the interaction between enzymes and substrates. Then looking at models that explain it, especially the lock and key model. Then we'll also look at the induced model. Then after that, we'll look at the features of active site. So we'll first define what an active site is. We'll look at the features of active site. Then we'll look at the concept of activation energy. Then talking about enzyme specificity and types. Then we'll also talk about the classification of enzymes using the IUB system of classification and nomenclature of enzymes. We'll look at this class, we'll give examples and see how enzymes are so named. Then we'll look at the ribozymes. Also, we'll talk about the apoenzymes, the coenzymes, and their functions. We'll talk about the NAD plus, we'll talk about the NADP plus, the FAD, FMN lipoic acid, the pyridoxal phosphates, and lastly we'll talk about the biotin. So this is the course content of the aspects I will be taking. Now, to break it into a way we will understand better, we'll look at the definition of enzymes. We'll have to know what enzymes are, then the history of enzymes, then the importance of enzymes. Then later we'll also look at about the properties. We'll talk about the properties, classification of enzymes, the different classes of enzymes, nomenclatures, and we'll also look at some individual classes of enzymes. Having said this, we'll begin by looking at the general introduction. Now, basically, we know that reactions occur in the human body. Reactions occur. A lot of biochemical reactions take place in the body. And this, ordinarily, if there are no enzymes, these reactions will proceed in a very slow rate. And if it does like that, then it means that there will be problems with the normal functioning of the body. Therefore, it is necessary that we look at that aspect of what speeds up. First, before we go further, let's have a background understanding of what catalysts do in chemistry. Our knowledge of chemistry tells us that catalysts are substances mostly inorganic, that speed up the rate of reaction. So when we look at inorganic catalysts, will relate to what happens in chemistry. However, in the case of living system, we also have catalysts, but these times since they are in a living system, we therefore call them the enzymes. Now, the living cell is the site of tremendous biochemical activity. Now, all reactions that happen in the human body all occur within the cell. because within the cell we have the mitochondria, and that is the engine room. And within the cells we also have a lot of organelles that perform a lot of functions. So these biochemical reactions that take place within the cells are controlled or are regulated by the presence of enzymes. Now, in majority, now, so these reactions do not take place in the absence of enzymes. They do not take place spontaneously. What we mean by spontaneously is that they they should be very fast in meeting the requirement of the body. However, if enzymes are not present, it's not possible. Therefore, the enzymes are the catalysts of biochemical reactions. Just like we have inorganic catalysts. Now, in the living system, we have the enzymes. So the enzymes are responsible for bringing about most of almost all the chemical reactions that take place in the living system. There's virtually no reaction that takes place in the living system that does not have the input of an enzyme. The enzyme will propel the reactions to proceed at a rate that is commensurate with the body system. Now, the life of organisms will be much different and go on a very slow rate without the enzymes. Because the enzymes are responsible for speeding up reactions. If these enzymes are not present, now the processes that take place in the living system will be very slow. And if it becomes very slow, it means that there's going to be slow in reactions in the body and other things, and the body system will be affected. Now, if you look at the picture below, it tells us how, when we go into active site later, you will see how it happens. But it tells us how an enzyme, which is the one that is in blue coloration, with how it meets the reactants, which is the substrate, and how it engulfs it and allow a reaction to proceed. Now, basically, the study of enzymes is referred to as enzymology. So if you hear the word enzymology, it tells you that it is the study of enzyme. Now, if you break the words into two, enzymology, enzyme, the first five letters there, enzymo tells you about enzyme. Then logy tells you about study. So it becomes the study of enzyme, right? Now how do we define an enzyme? So we are going to look at the basic definition of enzyme that at your level you should know. The basic definition of enzyme. Now first, enzymes are the metabolic catalysts which increase the rate of chemical reactions by lowering the activation energy of that reaction. So underline the word metabolic catalyst, and also underline the word increase in the rate of chemical reaction, and also underline the word lowering the activation energy. I'll explain each of these. Now, for the first one, the metabolic catalyst, we've explained it earlier by saying that it acts as the inorganic catalyst in chemical reactions that we all know. So in this case, it is the catalysts that occur in the living system. Therefore, we say they are metabolic catalysts. Then two, we say the increase in the rate of chemical reactions. Ordinarily, reactions will proceed very slow without the presence of enzyme. But with the presence of enzymes being metabolic catalysts, they now increase the rate of which chemical reactions occur. Then the third word of importance, lowering. It lowers the activation energy. Usually before reactions occur, the activation energy must be surpassed. So in the presence of enzyme, what the enzyme does is that it reduces that height, which is called the activation energy of that reaction. It reduces it so that the reaction can proceed from the reactant to product easily. So without going through the hill that will take the reaction. Then a second point we need to understand is that an enzyme is made up of protein that act as catalysts to cause certain desired reaction. Understand that all enzymes are protein, but not all proteins are enzymes. Now, this tells us that the enzymes are basically made up of proteins. And being made up of proteins, it means that they have the building blocks which we regard to the building block, the same building block of as protein, which we regard as amino acid. Therefore, we can understand enzymes to be a conglomeration of amino acids. Then the third point is that the enzymes are the largest and most highly specialized catalysts in the body for the reactions that are involved in the reactions in metabolism. Then another point is that the enzymes are capable of performing multiple reactions. This is because at the end of a reaction, the enzymes are not used up. So they can be recycled. So they can perform several reactions as they make a conversion from reactants to products. They still remain intact and go back and restart as long as the reactants are available. Then enzymes being biological catalysts, the order of the magnitude of carrying out is faster than chemical reaction. By the word magnitude, we also go back and link it to increasing the rate of chemical reactions. Therefore, it tells us that the product it forms per time in the presence of enzyme is greater than when enzymes are absent. Now, having understood the definition and the definition of enzymes, we want to look briefly at how the phenomenon of enzymes came into being. As usual, they are discoveries of scientists, and the first of importance is by a scientist known as Berzelius in the year 1836. From his work, he was able to coin the word enzyme to be related to catalysis, which in the Greek word means to dissolve. So catalysis generally, even if you look at our chemistry, it tells us how a reactant will be dissolved in order to form a product. So Berzelius in 1836 was able to relate enzymes with the term catalysis. Now, later on, another scientist, a German scientist, Kohn, in 1878, was the one that used the word enzyme first. So take note that the first person that used the word enzyme was Kohn, and he used this as a word. He derived it from the Greek word, which means in the yeast. Yeast is very important when we talk about enzymes. So he used that word to indicate the catalysis that takes place in the biological system. So usually in the biological system, the catalysis that takes place there is mostly as a result of the activity. First, in the earlier discovery, was as a result of the activity of yeast. So that was in 1878. Now, some years later, another scientist by the name Edward Buckner in the year 1897 discovered that this yeast could ferment and convert sugar to alcohol. It's just like the basic fermentation that takes place when we soak guinea corn. There are yeasts that are responsible for the conversion of the sugar into alcohol, and this is the foundation of the brewing process, whether you look at it at the industrial level or at the local level. The local level is the one that results in the production of things like kunu or burukutu and the rest. It's as a result of fermentation, and this fermentation process takes place as a result of the presence of yeast. So if you look at the equation below, it tells us how sugar is converted to alcohol with the production of carbon dioxide and 2 molecules of ATP. Now, the conversion of sugar to alcohol, the alcohol is taken to be ethanol, is catalyzed by several enzymes called the zymes. So, the zymes are produced. The zymes are the enzymes that really are responsible for the conversion of sugar to alcohol. Now, from Buckner's finding, he was able to show that fermentation was promoted by molecules that continue to function even when they are removed from the cells. So they go back. Remember, we talked about recycling of enzymes. So they are still used. So lastly, the fourth scientist that did work, and that became like a spring point, was in 1926 by the scientist known as James Sumner. He was able to isolate and crystallize an enzyme called the urease from the jack beans. So it's from here, at this point, that a lot of great works, scientific work, begin to see the various enzymes that are responsible for a lot of reactions or biological reactions taking place. Now, what are the importance of enzymes? Just like I said, that the enzymes are very critical in every aspect of cellular life. Let's take our mind back to what happens within the cells. A lot of reactions happen within the cell. Major reactions happen within the cells. There are so many. Go back and read and understand carefully the cellular organelles, components that are within the cells. And if you see each of them, each of their functions, they are all tied down to what enzymes, one or two enzymes. Now we are going to look at the critical areas of which enzymes play great roles within the cellular life of an organism. First and foremost, we'll look at the cell shape and motility. Enzymes are involved. The rigidity of the cell, the motility of the cell, and how the shape is kept intact is a function of what the enzymes does to it. Then secondly, within the cell surface, we have a lot of receptors. There are a lot of receptors. And what does a receptor do? A receptor is responsible for picking signals and relaying the signals either into the cell or relaying the signals to other organelles. So, and these are performed by a lot of enzymes, which we will see later. Then the third one is that the enzymes are also involved in cell cycle. Cell cycles are very important because they control the cell cycle at the appropriate time, cells dividing, cell division, and the cell division, they occur, and they are responsible for a lot of life processes that we look at. Then the fourth one we'll look at is metabolism. Metabolism is a very vital component of the living system. It comprises of the anabolic process, which involves the building up, and the catabolic process, which involves the breaking down. So metabolism, both anabolic and catabolic reactions, are very important, and these are carried out by the function of enzymes within the system. The next we'll look at is transcription. Now, transcription is very important. Within the cells, there are a lot of transcription taking place. Transcription, information are relayed from one point from within the RNA. So these are very, very important. Information are transcribed. Transcription enables information to be relayed and transcribed from one organelle to another. From how information is transferred, even from one, especially into the gene. Then another aspect of cellular life is hormone release. Now, hormones are very important. Now, the definition of hormones are substances that are produced in one part of the body and which have their effects at a distant point away from the point of production. Now, how are these produced and how are they moved, and at what time, at what point are they even needed? These are also the function of enzymes. Enzymes are play active roles in hormonal release, and even in muscle contraction. Enzymes also play a part. We have proteins, and even proteins that are involved in muscle contraction and relaxation. And how they all play is a function of what? Is a function of the existence of enzymes. So basically, and also another point is of cellular importance, cellular importance of enzyme is in protein synthesis. So in each of these, we'll look at them critically. Now, general notes for us to understand and for us to appreciate what enzymes are with respect to the biologic system are that enzymes are very vital for the chemical rules or chemical reactions to occur in the cell. And these reactions involves what? The breaking of bonds, the formation of bonds, the rearrangement of bonds on a substrate, which of course is known as the reactant. So the substrate upon which an enzyme acts upon is known as the reactant. Then another point for us to understand again is that there is a modified substrate. There is a modified substrate. So the substrate now that has become a product is a function of what? Is a function of the activity of the rearrangement of bonds, of the breaking of bonds, and these are catalyzed, these are carried out by the enzymes. Then the consequence, a reaction catalyzed by enzyme often results in the three of the following. Number one, it often results in the transformation of energy and matter in the cell. Number two, it often results in cell-to-cell or intracellular communication. Remember what we talked about receptors picking signals. Then number three, it allows for cellular homeostasis to persist. And what do you understand by homeostasis? How the body system is maintained. Okay, and this takes us to the performance or the function of hormones, which we said earlier that the enzymes participate in. So having a look at this, we can understand that a biologic reaction in which an enzyme is involved is needed for the continuous functioning of the system, of the biologic system in the body. So we have come to the end of this first class for the first week, and this will help us. We should help us to understand enzymes. So what basically we have looked at so far is understanding what enzymes are and the roles they play in biologic system and so on. So the assignment for this week, which I expect that you have to do and submit, are that number one, what are enzymes? What are enzymes? Or better still, define enzymes. Number two, list 7 cellular areas of enzyme importance. Then number 3, name 4 scientists that have contributed to the study of enzymes. Having done this, we've come to the end of this lecture, and I believe you've gained some amount of substance here. So we'll call it a day, while we expect that by the time we will reconvene, we'll go to the other aspects of enzymes and we'll begin to appreciate what enzymes are to the system. Thank you and have a good day.